Hey, everybody, welcome to another week of Breakfast All Day. Matt and Christy are here with me. I'm Alonso, and it's time to do the week in news because holy moly, what a week this has been.
Is it only 1 week?
Right? I could have sworn it'd be like it was 2 years since last we spoke. Christy has her list of all the things.
Just now, as I was making Nick his lunch, he goes, "Wait, your podcast is today? What day is it?" I'm like, "It's Friday." He's like, "Didn't you think it was Thursday?" I'm like, "No, I know our sense of time is very screwed up here." Well, there's a ton of news to get to, but the first thing I'm going to say is Eddie Van Halen died.
Yes.
Which is an awful, heartbreaking tragedy and such a massive outpouring of love for him as an artist and as a person. Hence, we have the song we have as our opening song this week. And the one thing that struck me over and over again was that the memory that folks have about how he brought such joy to rock and roll. Like most really serious, heavy guitarists, like they were straining and they had the guitar face and they were a very serious artist. And he just had that big, infectious, joyous grin, no matter what he was doing. Local guy. He grew up in Pasadena. There were tributes to him outside his childhood home and also at Pasadena City College here. So,
and outside, there was a store in Pasadena where apparently as teenagers they like wrote their names in the cement, and it's still there. And a lot of people were like leaving flowers and stuff there.
Yeah.
As well.
I love the story that Alex Van Halen was the one who had the guitar and was working a paper route to pay for it. And Eddie was like, "Oh, well, Alex is out. I'm going to noodle away on the guitar."
That's funny. Favorite Van Halen song? Anyone got a favorite Van Halen song?
You know, my favorite movie related one would be the bit where the dream sequence of Everybody Wants Some and Better Off Dead.
Oh, yeah. Good one. I like Panama, maybe. I don't know. I saw them on the 1984 tour.
Ooh, in Atlanta?
In Atlanta, yes. My friends in high school were super into Van Halen and Rush, and I went with them to the Van Halen show, and it was great. I had a really good time.
I was going to say, I can't really see this being like your kind of music back then, Alonzo.
Well, it's funny because like by senior year, I was already listening to like REM and the Police, which was like weirdo music at the time. But then Thanksgiving break of our freshman year in college, suddenly everybody wanted to tape all of my records because they discovered that Van Halen and Rush were not as cool out in the real world after high school. But no, I definitely did. I appreciated Van Halen at the time. I once saw Eddie Van Halen driving down Ventura Boulevard in a convertible, and a friend of mine said that is like the most LA thing you could have said, unless like Angeline was crossing the street at the time.
Oh yeah, Valerie Bertinelli had a really lovely remembrance of him.
Yes.
This is really gorgeous photo of the two of them when their son Wolfgang was a baby, and there's like so much luxurious hair in that photo. I like Panama too. Yeah.
And they stayed close, even though they split up, which is not a thing you always see. So.
Very sad.
Yeah, 1984 is a great album. There's a lot of good songs in there. I like a lot of the stuff on Diver Down too, like the sillier like cover stuff, like Big Bad Bill is Sweet William Now. Like that's such a goofball song for them to do. But yeah, I think one of my favorites is even though arguably it's at this day it doesn't necessarily age well, is Hot for Teacher.
Well, that's our opening song, Matt. Yeah. That guitar solo is so rad. So.
Yeah. And for those people that like weird covers, Lee Presson and the Nails do a terrific swing cover of Hot for Teacher.
Oh, and is it Aztec Camera that does Jump like in sort of slow down version, which is really fun.
Did you guys 65 years old?
Wow, I know that was and I it's funny. Dave goes, that's somebody that you're growing up and you think he's so much older than you are, and then you realize, oh no, he's got like maybe a decade or so on me. Did you guys ever watch the web series Yacht Rock?
No, is it about Yacht Rock?
It's about Yacht Rock. It's this really hilarious sort of like, here's what really happened, and there's a whole episode where like Michael Jackson might go to the rock side because of Eddie Van Halen, but then they bring him back to smooth when David Porcaro of Toto writes Human Nature, and that brings him back into the smooth fold of Yacht Rock.
Yes. Anyway, so he had throat cancer. He had lost part of his tongue over the years, 65 years old. Eddie Van Halen. So the big news last week, of course, which was breaking as we were recording our episode last week, was Trump testing positive for COVID and going to the hospital. He spent a few days there. This past week, he's been recording these like batshit videos, which
in front of a green screen.
So clearly not really in front of the White House. If you look at like the trees in the background, like they're looping the way that they're
right. They're like animated Zoom backgrounds.
It's so bad. It's like glitching. So it's just a crazy time. I don't even know where to begin describing what's happening. I mean, like Kayleigh McEnany has it, like 4 different people in the White House press office have it. A bunch of reporters have it. Today,
a butler died.
Oh, did they die? I know there was somebody who was like the head of security who was in the hospital who's very, very sick.
A butler died. I didn't see the whole story.
Yeah, I saw a story yesterday that I think it was the New York Times. Somebody was reporting that there are 34 cases in the White House at the moment, which is a lot.
Yeah, there are all these articles about how it's just like a ghost town and everyone's confused.
Because, and he wants to have a rallies this weekend too.
Well, he's not doing it this week. He's going to do some event tomorrow, which is Saturday. He wanted to have a rally on Saturday. I think now they're pushing it to like Monday of next week. But there's nobody telling him no, right? Like his doctor is
clearly
saying, hey, you're good, Dr. Nick, who is a doctor of osteopathy.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Nick. That's his doctor.
Okay, sorry. Let me make a correction because I got this wrong. A former White House butler did die of COVID, but he actually retired in 2012. So we can't pin that one on him. We can. My apologies, I got that one wrong.
But the head of White House security is in the hospital with COVID and is very sick.
Yes.
So.
I'm reminded of years ago, my friend, screenwriter and graphic artist Todd Alcott made a comment on Facebook where he said, people wonder how I'm able to predict what it is that Republicans are going to do. And it's easy. You think of the worst thing. You think of the most venal, self-serving way to respond to anything. And that's what they'll do. And so here you have Trump who test positive. And so you think, so this could be his moment to actually do something useful and be instructive and show people how to deal with this stuff. No. He drives around and puts his Secret Service guys in danger. He pretends like he's completely healed in 2 days and tells people not to live in fear, which is a spit in the face of the 200,000
tells the old people you're not that vulnerable. Like, dude, that's your base.
Yes, all that kind of bullshit. And then, on top of everything, did you guys see the piece in Rolling Stone where the musician talking about yeah, I was on that steroid they've got him on, and I thought I was invulnerable. I thought I was invincible. It made me insane. And that's what we're dealing with now.
Well, most people who get that steroid as a treatment for coronavirus are in a coma. They're so far gone that they are on a ventilator and in a coma. So they don't have
How do we know he's not?
Evidence. That's right. They don't have that much evidence about what it does to people who are conscious and walking among us, because no one has done the combination of medications that he has done before, ever in their lifetimes. So he's rage tweeting. He went on Rush Limbaugh today and just rambled for 2 hours. He dropped an F-bomb on Rush Limbaugh's show.
I feel like with the combination of drugs, I'm hearing that he is taking the medical equivalent of washing down Pop Rocks with soda. And then chasing it with Alka-Seltzer.
And apparently, according to some studies, he got something like $150,000 worth of health care on a $750 tax bill. So I guess socialized medicine is a good thing sometimes.
Right. And he's saying I want everyone to have this. I want all the elderly people to have this, but it's so much money. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Of course. He never does.
Also, Amy Coney Barrett, who is the Supreme Court Justice nominee, her hearings begin Monday because they're forcing that through. But there's a teacher and 2 students at the school where her kids go who have tested positive.
So speaking of her, I love that people are talking about the super spreader event that was probably part of where he got it was the introduction and kind of reception for her, which is also getting called the Republican Red Wedding.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Was that
Saturday.
2 weeks ago? Yeah, right. But that was right. But they started talking about it after the diagnosis last week, right?
Also, a whole bunch of her sorority sisters. She was a Kappa Delta at Rhodes College. A bunch of her sisters have a big petition opposing her being placed on the Supreme Court.
Right. Also, if you go to Rhodes College, that does not make you
a Rhodes Scholar. as Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany learned, they're two different things.
And apparently, and I've been seeing all these articles about all these different strategies that Democrats could employ to like push back these hearings, to like, delay them, to like stop the train. But of course, they're not doing any of them because that would involve, a spine.
Playing dirty.
Just playing, period.
Right. Yeah. Also, we had the vice presidential debate this past week with Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. There was a fly. There's a fly that landed on Mike Pence's head for all of 2 minutes, and he didn't even notice it. And the Mike Pence's fly Twitter account already has like hundreds of thousands of followers.
And there's like 8 accounts, and yeah.
Before the debates were over, apparently the Biden campaign bought the flywillvote.com URL. Like that's
right.
That is, I mean, I don't know if it's just the sadness of the state of politics in this country or our attention spans, but the fly is everybody's takeaway from this thing, even though ostensibly some issues were discussed.
Kinda.
One of the things that hasn't come up yet, and I'm kind of waiting for the report, the inside dirt that will come out, because we always hear a couple weeks later about some gossip from the White House about some event. And I have to imagine one of the stories we're going to hear is how Trump is furious about Mike Pence not swatting that fly away and just being a laughingstock that his vice president just sat there with a fly on his head.
It's certainly possible. Yeah.
The fly is Antifa. We should talk about the kidnapping attempt on Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So a bunch of wannabe militia assholes came up with a kidnapping plot. These 6 guys with 7 other folks who were going to help them. Yes, Matt's stopping me. Yes, what is it?
Can we call them what they are, terrorists?
They are terrorists. That's true. Right. They think they're a militia. They think they're hearkening to, the Revolutionary War and protecting our nation.
Right.
There's a bunch of assholes with giant guns that nobody needs. Many, many months ago, several of these people stormed the Michigan State House. They have been critical of her because she is a Democrat, and she is a woman, and she has put some precautions in place to keep the state safe.
And because the asshole in chief tweeted, "Liberate Michigan."
I was going to say the president tweeted, "Liberate Michigan," and is encouraging this kind of thing. Open your schools, open your churches. And so people have taken that message to heart, and a bunch of them tried to kidnap her. The details of it are both hilarious and chilling, right? Like they are clueless, but their intent is frightening. They were going to try and snatch her from her vacation home, either coming or going from her vacation home. So the FBI foiled it, but then she was not sufficiently appreciative of the president. And so he tweeted out an attack of her again anyway.
Well, because he thinks that his job is a favor that he's doing everybody. And this is for everything that he ever does or doesn't do or claims to do. No one's ever grateful enough because he's only doing it out of the kindness of his heart.
He's a victim.
Right,
you don't understand.
Right, he's mad that he said in his tweets, he's mad that she didn't thank him. And the thing is, like, we all know that if somebody in the Justice Department or, in charge of the FBI were to ask him, like, "Hey, just so you know, we're gonna stop these guys," right? He just said no.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure it was over his not knowing that it was going on. What is constantly vexing about this is that there was a report from the Department of Homeland Security about the rise of right-wing extremism in this country that was developed during the George W. Bush administration. So this wasn't like some Democratic president gunning for this. This was during the Bush years. And yet the Republican-controlled Senate managed to like quash and bury that thing as much as possible. But it is an ever-growing thing. And all of which is made much, much worse by the current economic crisis that we're going into. Because if you look historically, whether it's, the rise of Hitler during the Great Depression, there are all these studies that talk about how economic insecurity leads to this brand of like nationalism, to extremism, to violence. And we're not addressing this thing. And so sadly, I worry this is not the last we're going to hear about this kind of crap.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's 2 things. Like, one, you got to go. I mean, look, have we known that this is an issue, the racism and the white supremacy in law enforcement? have we ever heard Killing in the Name of by Rage Against the Machine? Like they were talking about that. That's that whole song. The other thing is I remember a long time somebody talking about, the way gangs get started is that they target the losers. They target the people who like have nothing and things are shitty, and it's a protection racket kind of, right? And when you start thinking about things like the Klan and whatever else, they're like, oh, they're shitty gangs, right? And they get people like, if life is great for you, you don't join the Klan. You don't end up joining one. That's right. Like
the season premiere of Fargo this year, you sort of see like there's a Jewish mob, and then there's an Italian mob, and then there's a black mob. And the reason is because if those communities aren't getting jobs and aren't allowed to be part of the mainstream economy, then the only thing they have left is to go off and start something outside of the system for themselves. And so we're looking at the same thing where the racists are being empowered from above, and they are using they're separating from a society they feel no longer reflects their values, and they're lashing back at that society with violence.
And I don't mean to make it sound like racism is caused by economic insecurity. That's not the point. It's just that economic insecurity is awfully good kindling.
Yeah, racism is its own thing, but as far as like violence and terrorism and this kind of thing, it is certainly fomented by economic insecurity.
Did you guys see this week that somebody put the word Trump in like Hollywood sign letters along the Sepulveda Pass, along the 405, like big white letters, like the Hollywood sign letters, but it spelled out Trump?
I saw the news, but I didn't see the person who's driving anywhere.
I don't know.
Like,
People still have to drive places sometimes. I have not gone over the Sepulveda Pass since I last went to your house, Matt, and that was on March 13th.
That was my old house.
Right, the old house over the 405. But along those lines, Cops is resuming production.
For other countries, right?
Is it? It's not in the U.S.?
I think it's not airing here. I think it's just that other countries love to watch us do that stuff.
I see. So it's U.S. Cops, but it's not going to air in the United States.
That's my understanding.
Why we can't have nice things.
Yes. So we should talk about actual movie news. There was quite a bit this week. Regal and Cineworld are closing all of their theaters. This is the second largest global exhibitor. This impacts about 45,000 employees. There are 536 Regal theater locations in the U.S., and then there are 127 Cineworld and Picture House theaters in the UK.
I have friends in the South for whom like Regal is the only game in town where they are. So like this kind of leaves them with not a lot of options.
And that was in response to
Dune moving?
No Time to Die getting pushed back.
No Time to, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
That was right. Because remember
that forced him. Yeah.
That was the thing that forced him. Because remember they had, I remember we talked about this a few weeks ago, and it was announced like, oh, it'll be November. And at the time I was thinking like, until they move it again. And with that getting pushed back, and obviously we've seen plenty of other things move back. Regal's owners, Cineworld, just threw in the towel. They're like, all right, forget it.
And in response, AMC is staying open. AMC is kind of like pouncing to fill that void.
Well, the AMC,
they're in tough shape too, though, right?
They are, but their deal with Universal is what's really saving their bacon right now, which everybody was mad about at the time, because apparently now what happens is Universal gets a 17-day window in theaters, and then once those titles go to streaming, AMC gets a cut of the streaming action.
So and I have to imagine that means that they have to stay open to a certain extent.
Yeah, I guess so, for that deal to go through. Yeah.
I mean, not that there's not some force majeure clause that allows them to shut down, but there's more pressure and probably makes more economic sense for them to stay open. Plus, we've seen in a lot of places in more rural areas in the country, AMC can stay open and show some stuff.
It's just not here.
Just not here, right?
Well, the government needs to help out these companies that are not able to do their business right now. They also need to be helping all these employees that are being put out of work because of these closures.
Yeah, I would argue that
I say the last two movies I saw were both at Regals. When I saw Tenet, it was at the Regal down in San Diego County. And prior to that, the last movie I paid for on March 12th was The Hunt at the Regal at the top of the hill here in Palos Verdes.
Yeah, I'd be much happier seeing the government help out the employees. I mean, I don't know, like AMC has been a basically junk bond for years. I don't know that they need help. Right.
I'm more concerned about the employees, but I mean, I just think in general, like not just theater chains, but indie theaters, and that also extends to like stage, theaters, and music venues and places like that. Like anything that revolves around the congregation of many people, needs some financial assistance right now, because the congregation of many people is not happening because the government fucked up their response to this pandemic.
Along those lines, Alonso, you sent me this item today that the Broadway season is now going to remain closed through May of 2021, which means it's been over a year. This affects 97,000 people.
At least. I mean, that's not even counting the larger scope of what New York of what they bring to New York tourism.
Sure. So but the number I saw was nearly 97,000 people. So that's people who are directly involved with these shows. But you're right, all the peripheral infrastructure of
hotels,
the experience, restaurants. There were, in March, when everything shut down, there were 31 shows in production and 8 others in rehearsals. Wow. And so all those folks, like, you're a singer, you're a violinist, whatever you do. We already talked about how
you're a stagehand.
The New York Metropolitan Opera is shut down for all this season, and how that is like the nation's largest performing arts organization, and the thousands of people that impacts. Like, what do you do if you're a musician?
Well, you can go and wait tables. Oh, wait, no, you can't do that either.
I mean,
hopefully you I know there have been a lot of Zoom opportunities of people doing stuff, but those are all kind of one-offs.
You went to fucking Juilliard. What do? You busk on the subway stop? I don't know. So that is a bummer.
What was the big pushback from last week that had Dune already been moved when we did this last time, or no?
No, I got Dune. Dune's now coming out October 21st. I have many movies for you that have changed their dates. The Batman has moved to March of 2022 at this point.
Do you mean October 2021 for Dune?
October of 21 is now Dune.
Of 21. Okay, you said October 20.
I'm sorry. Yeah. March of 22 is now the Batman. Jurassic World Dominion is now June of 22. It was June of 21. So that got pushed by a whole year. Promising Young Woman supposedly is going to open on Christmas Day.
It is.
Yeah, I saw that today.
Soul
is going to stream. The new Pixar is going to stream exclusively on Disney Plus, but supposedly they're not going to do the thing that they did with Mulan.
Yes, not for any extra charge. It's just going to go straight there.
Extra.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that.
Had The Witches been announced last week? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay.
I think we did.
Who can keep track anymore?
It's a jumble. It's a jumble of stuff.
So is Wonder Woman 1984 like the last big thing left? Because I know that they're going to open Promising Young Woman and One Night in Miami on Christmas Day for like Oscar stuff and whatever theatrical looks like at that point. But as far as like the big tentpole-y, franchisey stuff, that's the last one.
I bet it gets moved.
Probably, but it hasn't yet.
Last we talked, when was it supposed to open?
December. Was it Christmas Day?
Was it Christmas? Okay.
I think because Dune was going to be like early December, and then that was going to be Christmas Day, I think.
Yeah, Dune is now next October, just so we're not confusing folks. Dune is now next October, and the Batman and Jurassic World Dominion are now 2022. Also, we got the teaser for Mank! Exclamation point. That's what's happening. He's a guy. He made movies. So that supposedly is coming out, theatrically in November, with a Netflix debut on December 4th. Now,
I think Netflix is still sort of hanging on to the idea of some theatrical, just to not hedge any bets as far as Oscar consideration. Like you'll recall, one of the excuse me, one of the marquees we got sent a few weeks back. Remember, one of the theaters was showing the Charlie Kaufman movie. And I think Over the Moon might be also
Over the Moon's in 2 weeks on Netflix.
right, but I think but the embargo lifted last night, so I'm wondering if maybe it's opening in theaters first.
Oh, I don't know. I know that I have it on schedule as Netflix on October 23rd, but I don't know if there's any prior Netflix theatrical rather.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think it's interesting that all of the big event tentpole movies keep getting pushed, and the smaller movies will go up in, take whatever theatrical availability. And I can't help but wonder, is the industry inadvertently retraining the audience to go to the theater, to go to movie theaters to see smaller films?
Well, we talked about this before. Like, there was a time when, like, there were a few big event pictures a year, but there were also like a lot of sort of mid-budget adult dramas or comedies or whatever that drew in big numbers. And so I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's just nature abhors a vacuum, and like Promising Young Woman doesn't have to have a $50 million opening weekend or whatever. And
right.
Of the many things that are not going to come out the same when this is all done, like that's certainly one of them, I think.
So let's take our temperature here as far as how you guys feel about going to a movie theater. Is it still the same?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
Yeah, hell no.
Just thought I'd check in. I have no driving urge to go see anything else at this point myself. Like, I did Tenet and it was a huge letdown and it was stressful. Look, so I have no driving need for it myself.
I have not again, I think so. I was 7 or 8 years old would be the last time of my life that I could say, oh yes, I have not set foot in a theater in 7 months. It is a huge part of my life, but I am not doing it again until, a lot of things have changed. And like, I understand that, yes, I'm not somebody who has to go out into the world every day and do all the things that, the essential workers are doing. My hat is off to all of you guys. But when epidemiologists say that a movie theater is one of the most dangerous places to be right now, mask or no mask, I tend to believe them.
I keep seeing things about how flying supposedly is safe. And there's like a graphic I keep seeing where like the air comes down and then whooshes out, and it gets refreshed every 2 minutes. And then air from the outside comes in to provide fresh air. And supposedly, even if you are sitting physically next to somebody, it is safe because, and you're all masked, of course.
Right.
It's not like, you leave the middle seat open. Even if you're physically next to somebody, supposedly that's a safe thing. Having said that, I don't have any great interest in getting on a plane.
No, thank you. I mean, if I had to, obviously I would figure it out, and I would, like Dave is not playing around with this. When he goes to the post office now, he is wearing he's
going to the moon. Yeah,
we have these cloth masks that have a thing where you can slide in a filter. So he's got like a sort of paper mask inside that. He has a gaiter on top of it to keep it from slipping off his nose, and he has a plastic face shield. Like, if I had to fly, I would set up with something.
Your husband is loaded for bear.
He is not, no half measures here.
Right, and he already had the "don't mess with me" look on his face during ordinary times.
Well, I think that's why, because otherwise, like, if you cover part of his face, then you have to work harder to cover more. Like, then you have to look really serious, right?
And he's such a teddy bear. I want to give Dave a hug, and he won't let me.
No, you can't. It's not safe.
When we feel comfortable going back into a movie theater, he will also feel comfortable getting
have hugs.
Yes.
I have a couple more things to talk about. Warner Media is laying off thousands of people.
Yes. Yikes.
So supposedly it's more across the Warner Brothers part of the world. Yes, Matt?
Had we talked about the Disney parks last week? Was that last week? Yes.
I think we talked about that last week.
We did, yeah.
About how they were laying off thousands of people, and most of them were at the theme parks.
Yeah.
So that is sad. Glow was canceled.
Yes.
Also, there will be no second season of On Becoming a God in Central Florida, which is a bummer.
I saw somebody comment, why is it the female-driven shows that are getting canceled first?
Yeah, no, I saw that too, and somebody had to, somebody did like a spreadsheet of all the sort of the Netflix series that got canceled after 2 or 3 years, and so many of them are either are female and or POC shows. But the thing is, like, I mean, Netflix cancels almost everything after 2 seasons. Like that's just in their business plan, I think. And then the other thing is that like Netflix does at least create, or I bet percentage wise probably offers more shows about female or POC characters than other networks do. But yeah, it does seem a little hinky.
Speaking of, Elizabeth Moss is going to play Katie Hill. Have you guys seen that?
I did see that. And
Congresswoman Katie Hill.
Right. And the people that worked with her in her office are really upset that that's going to get filmed so quickly. Because
supposedly she was super abusive to her staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Elizabeth Moss always makes interesting choices, right? Mm-hmm. Also, next week there's
noted Scientologist, right?
That's also true. That. I keep forgetting that. Damn it.
Sorry.
Yes. There's going to be a West Wing reunion on HBO Max next week. It is a benefit for When We All Vote. They got together on this bare bone stage, and it's like most of the West Wing cast. It is Martin Sheen, Allison Janney, Bradley Whitford, Dule Hill, Rob Lowe, Janelle Maloney. And the trailer for it is so sanctimonious. Like it's in black and white and the music swells and you don't know what's in the script and what's them just ad-libbing about the world we live in.
I'll tell you, to be honest, I never watched West Wing, but so many political people that I agree with and believe in or talk about how that show is one of the worst things that ever happened as far as like making everybody think that the way politics works is that it's all like hand holding across the aisle and kumbaya, and that's why the Republicans are constantly stomping at us because they're playing a different game entirely.
Yeah, I read somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody high up in politics was talking about something along the lines of West Wing is the way people inside the Beltway wish it was, and Veep is the way that they're afraid it really is. Did you see that Julia Louis-Dreyfus tweeted out something about The Fly saying, I can't believe we never thought of this.
Well, somebody else was talking about how like if Veep were on now, there would be a whole thing about like people who would be determined to get COVID just to show that they're close to the president.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a couple people also in various places tweet something like, the future of zombie movies will never be believable unless you see people actively running towards the zombies.
Anyway, indeed. That's the end of the news I have for you. Matt, you got some marquees?
I do have some marquees. So let me share my screen.
We got some good ones this week.
We do have some pretty good ones. Let me go to the full screen. All right. So this first one is from Adam Lubitow. He sent us a couple of pictures. These are, sorry, let me get my notes up. Because, I was daydreaming.
The Little Theater.
That's the Little Theater. Yes. He says, you featured the marquee at my local art house once before. They've gotten into Halloween spirit this week, so I couldn't resist submitting them again. Full disclosure, my partner, Dalbaz17, designed the graphics. So that's a Wear a Mask picture on there.
Is that Coraline?
I wasn't sure if it was that or Trick or Treat.
Anyway, it's like I think it's
Trick or Treat.
It's a creepy little puppet face and it says Wear a Mask in orange letters.
This is from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, where with the masks that were killing people.
Silver Shamrock.
Right. Wear a mask. All right. Geoff Swanson, who is very reliable about sending us pictures, sent us some pictures of the Highland. He said this is the Highland here in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's had some ups and downs with its reopening. That's a wonderful picture with the rainbow on it, though. He says it's back in business. It's playing Tenet, and the New Mutants will also be reserving a spot this weekend for a showing of Hocus Pocus. So there it is with Tenet and the New Mutants.
Did you guys read, by the way, that Hocus Pocus is like the #2 movie in the country right now?
Yeah. I mean, you could be in 3 theaters and get that, right?
Yeah, true. Still.
Okay, so this is from Jakob Kolness. He sent us a bunch. These are from the Fargo. This marquee says, mask for us, mask. And then this one, that mask really tied the room together.
That's my favorite.
That's a really good one. And then he got us a couple of pictures from inside the building, right inside the theater. That's gorgeous. The light on the walls there, that lighting pattern is just beautiful.
It looks like a big organ. It looks like a giant like cathedral with a big organ.
Yeah, that ceiling treatment kind of going into that Art Deco kind of style above the theater, above the screen is really, really pretty. Okay, next.
Orange and blue.
Yeah, next up is James McDougal, and he writes, let's see if I can blow that up a little bit. He says, hey, breakfast all day. James here, went to see New Mutants on Regal's Hollywood 27 in Nashville, Tennessee on their last night of operation. The movie was just okay. Did not have to worry about social distancing since I was the only one in the theater.
Woo-hoo.
Don't know why they had the message about New York since Nashville, a bit strange. Thanks for keeping everyone informed. So the left side of the left marquee says New York theaters closed on order of governor. No New York, no big movies, no big screen, no popcorn. New this week, temporarily closed. Yeah, I mean, Regal being that they're national, and if there's no theaters in New York showing anything, and that's part of why the big movies keep getting pushed back, is that with New York and LA theaters closed,
and San Francisco,
but really LA and New York are such a significant part of the box office, partly because of the business interest there. And by that, I mean, you know, the actors and producers and directors that live in those two cities. If your movie's not opening in your city, then you might as well just hold it forever. Yeah. I think is part of what's going on. This is another picture that he sent us, the outside of the theater with all that neon. You know, it's a newer building, but really kind of recaptures that older kind of Art Deco neon style.
It looks like a big peacock sprouting off.
A Vegas showgirl.
Right. All right. So this next one is from Mark Francis Dong, who's been so good about sending us pictures of theaters around the Bay Area and then giving us the history of them. So he writes, hi, Christy, Matt, Alonso, and sometimes Ben. San Francisco's once thriving movie-going experience is rapidly and sadly becoming a cinema desert. So today, he's also included a music venue. The Alexandria opened in 1923 as a second-run theater, upgraded in 41, then again in the 50s for 70 millimeter, expanded again in 76 with 3 screens. My parents took me to Greece and went there quite a bit as a teen in the 80s. So lots of great memories there. It lasted until 2004. It's now a crumbling blight on the neighborhood. As of June 19, it'll be converted to a swimming pool, education center, and offices. The front is covered with a political billboard for a San Francisco supervisor running in that district. So you can see the Alexandria sign and that political ad, and you see a little bit inside with kind of the remaining marble and clearly seen better days. And then next, he gives us a picture of Bimbo's 365. He says the beloved Bimbo's 365 Club is a music and event venue that opened in 1931 as a posh supper club, then moved to its current location in the North Beach District in 1950. Bimbo, the owner's nickname, meaning small boy in Italian, also kept the aptly named 365 from the original address on Market Street. It's got quite a glittery, glamorous, and colorful history that you should all check out, from Rita Hayworth to Adele and electronica and indie bands today. The marquee reads, tell Congress to support SOS and restart acts, start saveourstages.com, a mission to pass congressional acts, Save Our Stages Act, and Restart Act to keep independent venues nationwide from closing permanently.
I like the breeze blocks. They're very dramatic.
Yeah, those are super cool. Yeah, and Bimbo being the Italian nickname, for anyone who's not familiar with San Francisco, North Beach is kind of the Italian section of the city.
It is.
Yeah.
Historically. Okay, next. This is from the Ace of Spades. M.A. Ross passed this on to us. It's from the Ace of Spades in Sacramento Instagram account. Their marquee says, vote because the night is dark and full of terrors. This is on their caption. Election day is 1 month away. Head over to headcount.org/Live Nation to get registered. The marquee itself says, voting works. Remember, Bran, not John, is king of Westeros. because they voted for him at the end. And then one last one that I picked up. This is the picture that we are opening the show with. This is the Bad Axe Theater, and their marquee says, I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
What is that from? What quote is that?
They live.
Carpenters, They Live.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Roddy Piper. Yeah. Roddy Piper walks into the bank full of aliens, and he says, I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
That's really funny. It's like, so where is this theater, Matt? Where's the Bad
This
Axe?
is in Michigan, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's in Michigan. And I actually believe the Bad Axe Theater is supposed to be opening up this week. So maybe they'll be showing They Live. I would love a chance to see that on a big screen. I don't think I've ever seen that on the big screen.
Cool. Those are fun.
So that's it for this week.
All righty. Well, hey.
Thank you, as always, for taking the time to send that. We love them. Send them to us at all of the places that Alonso will now tell you about.
Yes, please keep those marquees coming, and you can drop them to us on our Twitter feed or at Facebook or on Instagram. You can find us in all those places at BeFastAllDay. Thanks for watching this video. Like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Have a good week, everybody. Hang in there. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.